thing with Van Halen was great. He did a great job. Him and Ed jived. They made some great music, and he has that as part of his catalog. Especially so late in the game, you got to realize, like, he was coming into Van Halen, I mean, right in their prime, and to come into Aerosmith in, like, 2010, like, what are you doing at that point?
You're just doing to tour with them. It's almost a cash grab. Yeah, I mean, I realize anytime you tour, it's a cash grab, but this is, I mean, I'm glad he didn't do it, because I don't think it would have worked out as well as he thinks it would.
No. The last part of this interview with the Washington Post, he gets into Roth. Oh, my God. And he basically said, well, we're different kinds of people. We're totally different. I've been married since I was young, and I got children. I got grandchildren. I'm a real family guy. I don't do drugs. I don't go out and party myself to death. I take what I do seriously. And when I go on stage, I'm in condition. And I try to do that every time. And it's just a different work ethic and a different thing. Well, I don't think that's really fair, because I don't think Dave's partying himself to death. Dave definitely is in condition. I think he's probably in better shape than Sam, considering his physique.
I think you can make that argument.
That's not exactly fair. Everybody's telling Dave he's out of shape. It's like out of my mind. It's just all about being celebrity, he says. It's all about, having something to get that attention. It's a whole different style, and I don't really respect the way he does it. But I respect what he did in Van Halen. So don't ever get me wrong. He was great for that band, and he's got a cool voice. He doesn't sing well anymore. But on the early Van Halen records, he was great. He sounded great, and I love the way he sang with attitude and his persona. Then he starts getting into the whole kitchen sink tour. And he says, I had this worked out years ago. I presented this to Irving Azoff and everybody before Eddie and I were still talking, but I presented it to Irvin, and I presented the band this way. Number one, I'd have my own plane, so I wouldn't have to get in any close quarters with the guy, meaning Roth. Number two, we'd be playing stadiums, so you know how there's two football teams? I'd be on the Raiders side, and he'd be on the whoever side. I would just keep us apart, and my concept was to do it like this. I go out and sing 2 songs, leave the stage. He comes from stage right, and he sings 2 songs. He leaves stage left. I go out and come on stage right, and we do this all night back and forth. 2 songs, 2 songs, 2 songs. I would totally be willing to do an encore of one of our songs, like Finish What You Started is about the only song he could possibly sing in his range. So I say, let's do that for an encore. And we could do You Really Got Me, because I love that song, and I'll sing the high part. But that would have never happened, because he's never done an encore with me. He wouldn't step on the stage with me. It would be the last thing he'd ever want to do. It would have been great for the fans. He just loves to talk about Roth. This guy is unfucking believable. He bashes Dave to get press. I really believe this. I don't understand why he needs to bash Dave. There's no reason. The kitchen sink tour, I don't know how well that would have worked. I gotta be honest, there's a thing with these live shows, like when you keep interrupting the flow of the show, sometimes it's a cool concept on paper, but when you apply it in actual concert, sometimes it doesn't play. Like, everybody likes to hear this, the whole album concept. That band comes out and plays a whole album. Well, I have news for you. I have seen many shows where they play whole albums. It really doesn't play well. I can't even explain it. There's something flat about it. When they play an album from beginning to end, I don't know. It's like a salad with one green. There's no mixed stuff in there, and it doesn't have the right flavor. It's a little stale. I've seen multiple bands do it. And I'm about to see the Black Crowes do it, so I'm curious to see how that goes. But, who knows? What do you think? He's just obsessed with Dave. I mean, he never stops talking about him.
I get that they will always ask him questions about Dave.
Yeah.
And that's fair. But he was like Gene. He goes unnecessarily too far. And I think he knows why. It gets him press. I mean, look, we're talking about it now, so it's working.
No, of course, yeah.
But, he'll keep doing that as long as it brings attention to himself.
Yeah, and he continued even more when he was talking about his Vegas plans. He's got this residency coming up at the Strat Theater in Las Vegas, right? So he's selling left and right. So it's going to be in the spirit of his annual birthday bash. We talked about this before, like this Cabo Wabo performances. It's going to have that kind of vibe. And in addition to his member of his circles, he's inviting different friends over, this and that. He's got like Toby Keith and Rick Springfield, Kenny Chesney, Vince Neil, Jerry Cantrell from Alice in Chains. So he said the reason why he wanted to go to Vegas, he says the best restaurants in the world are in Las Vegas, and certainly some of the the best talent you can see night after night. You can walk in on a Monday night in Las Vegas and see 5 really great bands or an artist playing in town. It's become the entertainment capital of the world. And he says he loves the size of the Strat. It's only 800 people, which is very much like the Cabo Wobble. It's got that kind of like tight feel to it, right? He says, I wish it was 1,500 or 2,000, but it's just a shame. But we keep putting shows on sale and they keep going, bam, bam, bam. The idea is to continue this next year, like a month on and a month off, and I'll do as many as I can. Now he's planning on doing the whole album concept. Listen to this. He says the idea is start doing things like playing a whole album. Like we're going to play the whole Montrose album for the first half of the show, things like that. And we're going to also play the whole OU812 record in its entirety. Then he says if Tommy Lee walks in, he'll jump on drums and we'll do some Motley Crue songs. Then he's talking about the food there, right? So he says, I'm going to make this residency my house. He said the food in the restaurants for that night we're going to be playing are going to be catered to Cabo Wobble food, taco and Mexican food, and the drinks are going to be from my brands. There'll be the Sammy's Beach Bar rum and his ready-to-made cocktails type of thing. We're going to have giant murals on the wall that look like the inside of the Cabo Wobble. They're going to have a big lighthouse on stage like he has at the Cabo Wobble. And he says we're going to put it up and take it down every weekend we're there. Now, when asked about guests, right, listen to who he's wanting as guests. This is unfucking believable. I want to see if I can get Eric Clapton, Jimmy Page, Jeff Beck, Mick Jagger, Keith Richards, and Bruce Springsteen. He says, I guess that's enough for now, right? I really want Keith. If there's one guy I would love to have Keith, he would just play the Stones all night. And if Jimmy came down, we'd play some Led Zeppelin all night. What are the chances that those guys are going to be going to his 800-seat residency is beyond me.
He aims high. I like how he aims high.
That's Dave. Come on. That's insane. I mean, you got to be kidding me.
Well, he lost me at doing the OU812 album. I mean, out of all the Van Hagar albums, that's the one you want to do from beginning to end? Come on now.
Yeah.
Come on now. And I still don't believe he's going to do that because he has never been a fan of that. And his albums, like his solo albums, are woefully inconsistent.
Right.
So he can't do those from beginning to end.
No, I don't think so.
And about the only one he can do from beginning to end is the first Montrose album.
Or 5150, but he really can't because he's not going to hit those notes.
You're right. I mean, what's he going to do, Dreams?
No, but Dave, not
I mean, he'd have to do like an acoustic rendition. Like
but there's others. Love Walks In. Dave, 5150. That song's insane. You can't do 5150. What are you, crazy? So listen.
Well, if he does Space Station number 5, he's going to blow his voice out for the rest of the show. He's right? He does that scream? Forget about it. He's done.
Oh, actually, maybe he could have Mikey do it. I don't know. Maybe Mikey could do that.
I was thinking that in the back of my mind. It's not even Mikey, but like he brings his son out to do the high parts.
That's true. He could have his son do that. So now this is also funny. You get a kick out of this. This is hysterical. So we were talking before about him talking about Dave and his obsession with Dave, right? Well, this is so funny. He talks about David Lee Roth, right? He gets into it. Have you ever invited David Lee Roth to Cabo? And he says, I certainly have. I did the High Tide Beach Party. I invited Roth. And I told him he could headline the whole event. And I'd play before him. Not because I feel like I'm less than, but because I'm trying to rope him in. But he's not a fun guy. He doesn't play well with others, I don't think. I think that would be one way to put it. I'm not even sure he'd want to do a tour again. Not that I would, but because I definitely wouldn't from the last experience. But I don't know if he'd even want to do that again. I have no idea where his head is at. He's invited anytime, any place, anywhere I go. I would play the old Van Halen stuff. Me and Mike, I'd sing background and let Roth do his thing. It would be awesome, but I'm not sure it'll ever happen. It's so tongue-in-cheek to me to think about him and I ever doing anything ever again. And now he says it's so silly now, especially after the death of Eddie. There's not a Van Halen anymore, so it's not like we're competing for who's going to be in the band or anything like that. It's just silly, but who knows? I might run into him sometime and we can meet as grown-ups and adults finally. Oh boy, this guy, he loves it. He can't get enough. It's like a dog that won't leave a bone alone. He just keeps playing with it.
I think the people who interview him know it too.
Yeah.
You know, it's like shooting fish in a barrel. Just ask him the question, and you got him going for the next 10 minutes.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You get him going good. Now, Sammy's been doing with Mike at Van Hagar Other Half on Instagram. We talked about this last time. I'm sure you guys have been catching this. And he's got some really cool ones recently. He talked about the anniversary of Best of Both Worlds. Not the song, but the 2 CD greatest hits that came out in 2004. And he said, this kind of thing is what broke the band up in 95. Then he's got the date wrong, which is 96. I was against doing a greatest hits of any kind, and I wanted to make a new record. That never got to happen. And this go-around, it didn't either. My favorite track is hands down Up for Breakfast. It was fun writing and singing those lyrics. Makes me think we should add that to the Circle set list. Looking back now, I really wish we would have made a whole new record. And Mike said, I was pretty much estranged from the band and the Van Halen brothers. After negotiating and me pretty much giving up all my claims to anything Van Halen, I was back in and ended up coming into the situation to sing backgrounds on 3 songs that were recorded. I mean, that's just sad. I mean, they were actually reuniting with Sam in 2004 and contemplating not bringing Mike. Sammy had to say, like, listen, I'm not going to do this unless we have Mike. And they had to negotiate him into the deal. God, what the fuck? Now, here's the other thing. I always thought it was funny that Sam left because of the big battle about the best of, and only to return with the greatest hits. We want to call it a, what's the term they always do? There's the best of, and there's the anthology, they call it. The anthology, right? With the 2 CD, a deeper cut greatest hits. However, the weird thing is they only did 3 new songs on there. What I had heard, and through the years of reading and stuff like that, that the reason that they did that greatest hits, because you got to remember, that wasn't that long after the other greatest hits. There wasn't, like, much to put on it. The only album that came out in between was Van Halen 3, and they didn't even put anything on from Van Halen 3 on that greatest hit. So it was kind of like, what's going on? But they did the 3 new songs, which is Up for Breakfast, Learning to See, and It's About Time, right? Apparently, those songs took so much time that they had to do a greatest hits because, I guess in today's world, you could just release a single or a song. You know, like in today's world, it doesn't matter. Like bands release a song and go on tour. But here, they needed to kind of tour behind something. So they put together this anthology, right? Because remember, Best Of, what did they call it? Best Of Volume 1. There was supposed to be a Best Of Volume 2. That was being planned. And then it didn't make sense to put out a Best Of Volume 2. So they completely scrapped the plan for the Best of Volume 2, and they went with an anthology, the Best of Both Worlds, right? So apparently they really wanted to make an album, and Eddie was taking forever with the songs. So that was apparently the story there. But Sam is proud of his lyrics for Up for Breakfast? Is he kidding? Those are some of his worst lyrics.
I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, no.
I just could not believe it.
I know.
When I read that, that's what you're proud of? The lyrics to that song? Oh, my God. Like, if you want to say, hey, you know, despite the state Eddie was in, the music isn't that bad, maybe I'll throw you a pass. I at least like the solo in that song. But the lyrics? Those are the lyrics you're proud of? Oh, my gosh. Oh, my gosh, Sam, are we even in the same baseball stadium? Are we even playing the same game, Sam?
It's
you have
amazing.
a soccer ball? Did you bring a soccer ball to a baseball game, Sam? What is going on?
He's crazy. He's crazy. So then they talked about the song Aftershock. He says, it was a rough time in the band. I had just gone through a 3-year brutal divorce, but that's a badass track, and I'll be adding that to the Circle set list. There was a darkness that was entering the band, and Alex was in a neck brace, and Eddie was pre-hip surgery, and he was in a lot of pain. Makes me wish we could go back and would have taken a whole year off. Makes you wonder what could have been. Mike says, Sammy is totally right about not having the fun we had in the past on stage. Alex and Eddie were both suffering from their ailments, and there was much more of a seriousness to everything live than there had ever been in the past. So I tell you, anytime Sammy sees a clip, refers to a clip, a song from the Balance era, he like shudders. It's like talking about Vietnam for him. He gets like very upset, you know? So then they were talking about OU812, and that was kind of a fun time in the band, I guess when everything's flowing. And he said, Mikey and I were always reinventing some new handshakes or signs for the fans, and this was kind of funny. He says, Mike said, I remember you came into the band in 1986, we all became very fashion conscious, and we would dress up for photo sessions, and then in the picture that they showed, and this goes to show you what good-humored guys these are, Mike said, tucking in my shirt in those slacks